Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ritesh Prabhu, Pawan Prabhu, Vijay, Vishwanath Prabhu for the chanting today. Let's continue with our prayers. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminate Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Okay, so we'll continue with our prayer of the week from Shri Prarthana by Shri Narottam Das Thakur. Anybody would like to try singing today? Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. Does you want to try? Hare Krishna. Okay. Meenu Mataji, you're on mute. Would you like to try singing? No? All right, maybe she's away. Okay, we'll continue then. I'll sing. Unless nobody else wants to sing, then I'll sing and then we'll read the translation. Shri Rupa Manjari Pada Se Mora Sampada Se Mora Bhajana Pujana Se Mora Pranadhana Se Mora Bharana Se Mora Jivanera Jivana Se Mora Rasanidhi Se Mora Vacha Siddhi Se Mora Vedera Dhara Se Brata Se Tapa Se Mora Mantra Japa Se Mora Dharama Karama Anukula habe vidhi se pade hobe sedhi nirakhibo e dui nayane Sterupa madhuri shi pranakuvalaya shashi prafulita habe nishidi Tua darshana garale jaralo dehi chirodina tapita jivana haha rupa korodoya deho more pada chaya narotama loilo shara Shri Rupa Manjari Pada Se Mora Sampada Se Mora Bhajana Pujana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare श्री प्रार्थना की जय श्री नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय
I can go for the translation, Prabhuji.
Yes, Anand Prabhu. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. The lotus feet of Sri Rupa Manjari are my treasure, my devotional service, and my object of worship. They give my life meaning, and they are the life of my life. They are the perfection of rasa, and they are the perfection worthy of attachment. They are the very law of Vedic scriptures for me. They are the meaning of all my fasts and acts and my silent uttering of my mantras. They are the basis of religion, and activities. By the purifying process of favorable devotional service, one will attain perfection and with these two eyes be able to see. Oh, I got what happened to my... Okay, now I came back. The screen got vanished. Okay, his transcendental form is shining like the moonlight in my heart, and my heart therefore shines and reciprocates. In other words, the ordinary moonlight of the night and its shine illuminates other objects, but the moon of the effulgence of the form of Sri Rupa Manjari shines into the heart and makes the heart also shine back to the spiritual sky. This moon shines not only in the night time but day and night. Your absence from my vision is like a dose of strong poison, and I will suffer till the end of my life. Narottama Das Thakur says, please give me your mercy and the shade of your lotus feet. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nalin Prabhu. Yes, so these prayers, again, we're repeating them again and again. I'm also repeating that when we repeat these prayers again and again, it purifies us. It has a lot of power and potency to purify us. And it bestows mercy of the acharyas because these were composed in deep transcendental mood towards the Lord. So when we recite these prayers, Krishna becomes even more happy because we are glorifying the acharyas who compose these prayers. So that is why Prabhupada used to say repetition is necessary to drive the point home. So when we repeat, then we are able to imbibe, we are able to absorb into our consciousness. And repetition, as it says, repetition is necessary to drive the point home. Not just literally the point of these songs, but also the point, if we consider ourselves, we are just a tiny anu, right? Like in this whole universe, each of us are individual spirit sparks, souls. So we are also like a point also only in this whole cosmic universe. So when we repeat these prayers, it also it makes us eligible to go back home. So repetition is necessary to drive the point home. It will help us drive this point of our soul back to the super soul. And we have to take the shade of the lotus feet of our acharyas. So connecting this back to what we read in Prabhupada Lilamrit yesterday, we saw how Satsvarup Maharaj, when he was called in by Prabhupada in the Vrindavan land where they were on the Krishna Balaram land, Hare Krishna land, he was praying, right? He saw that story of King Nriga, and then he was remembering that what offense he had done in terms of taking away a pair of socks without asking Srila Prabhupada. So like that, we have to make sure that we don't commit any offenses at the lotus feet of the Guru. Of course, Prabhupada was talking about the land that Mr. S had given for Vrindavan temple, but then he was now wanting to take it away. So Prabhupada was asking him to read that story from Srimad Bhagavatam and then write it. But Satsvarup Maharaj was also feeling guilty that he had committed offense. So like that, we should also make sure that we don't commit any offense. So like it said, when we sing the morning prayers, Guru Ashtakam, Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said that Shri Guru Charana Padma. So the lotus feet of the Lord are like the lotus feet of the Guru are like the lotus feet. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakti Sadma, which can give us pure devotional service. But Bandho Mui Savadhana Mate. We have to be very, very careful that we don't commit any offense. Savadhana. In Hindi, Savadhan means very careful, be very attentive. Right? So there's a nice analogy that is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of a bumblebee. So how a bumblebee would get attracted to a lotus flower, right? So the lotus flower has a lot of nectar. So the bumblebee gets attracted to the nectar of the lotus flower. But the bumblebee has to be very careful that it should carry the nectar of the ocean of bhakti from the lotus flower, like lotus feet of Guru. But when when it is sunset, the lotus flower closes and closes its petals. So then the bee can get stuck inside, and if it's not careful, it can actually die. So like that, we have to be very careful. While the lotus feet of the Guru is the shelter of pure devotional service, is the ocean of bhakti, but we should not become too familiar, because familiarity breeds contempt. So they say, Prabhupada used to say that we should not get too close to fire, too close to deities, or too close to Guru, because if we get too close, then we may commit offenses, aparad, where we may think, oh, what is the difference between me and the Guru? Guru is also has a human body like me, two eyes. He also gets sick. I also get sick. What is special about the Guru, right? So that familiarity may breed contempt. So we should not become too close, and we should not be too far away also. We should not give up and go away, right? So there should be a nice balance. So like that, our lives, we have to hold on to the lotus feet, the shelter of the Gurus. So that was nice that he was reflecting that he should also not be committing any offenses. Vishwanath will remember this nice shloka, which also goes like that Ratrirgamishyati bhavishyati suprabhatam bhasvanudeshyati hasishyati pankajashrihi Itham vichintayati koshagate dvirebhe ha hanta hanta nalinim gaja ujjahara. So that means that this darkness of this night will go, and the morning will come. Ratrir Gamishyati, the night will go, and then Bhavishyati Suprabhat will come. And then Bhasvan Udeshyati, the sun will rise, and Hasishyati Pankajashri, the lotus flower will smile. Itham Vichintayati, like this thinking, Koshagati Dvirepe, a bumblebee inside the whirl of the lotus flower. But ha hanta hanta nalinim. Nalin Prabhu is also here. Nalinim is also lotus flower. So hanta hanta. Oh, alas, alas, thinking like this, the bumblebee in the lotus flower. But Gaja Ujjahara, an elephant came and uprooted the stem of the lotus flower. So the bumblebee was inside the lotus flower thinking that, oh, the night will go. It was caught inside the lotus flower. After sunset, it was thinking the night will go, morning will come. The sun will rise, the lotus flower will shine, like the lotus flower will smile, and I will get out of this lotus flower in the morning. And thinking so, it didn't make any endeavor to get out. But what happened? Then an elephant came and it uprooted the stem of the lotus flower, and the bee actually died. So like that, we also in our lives, we are waiting for the right day, procrastinating that we will do bhakti tomorrow, maybe when the time comes. We don't live in the present. We don't utilize this present, this gift that has been given to us, and waiting, we waste our lives. And then the elephant of death may come at any point in time, and it may uproot all our plans. So that is why it's important that when we wake up every morning, we do our sadhana, live every day as if this is our last day. Hare Krishna. Okay, so Prabhupada is now in Mayapur, and Prabhupada is teaching about Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the first publication of Chaitanya Charitamrita has come out. And Prabhupada is saying that the only purpose of the preachers of Sankirtan movement must be to go on preaching without restriction. That is the way in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced the Sankirtan movement to the world. Okay, so we'll continue from here. This volume also contained one of the most important verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bharat bhumi te haila manushya janma yara, janma sarthak kari kara para upakara. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all people. In his purport to this verse, Prabhupada explained the special piety of the Indians, who were always ready to take part in a Sankirtana festival. Unfortunately, the present leaders of India were leading the people away from God, away from distinguishing pious and sinful acts, and away from belief in a next life. The Indians had the special duty of educating the world in Vedic principles. If all Indians had taken to this path as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada wrote, India would have given a unique gift to the world, and thus India would have been glorified. Moreover, it was not only the duty of the Indians, but the duty of everyone to help the Krishna consciousness movement. One should know definitely that the best welfare activity for all of human society is to awaken man's God consciousness or Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada stayed with his disciples in Mayapur for a full week, lecturing daily and meeting with smaller groups for many hours. On the day of Gaur Purnima, he went down to the Ganges and took the sacred water on his head, while his men dove off the high bank and swam. The next day, he left for Vrindavan, where he would again meet his disciples and introduce them to the Dham. Although many of the Western devotees, inexperienced in living and traveling in India, were afflicted with indigestion and dysentery, and even in some cases, culture shock and homesickness, they nevertheless traveled, a somewhat bedraggled group, from Mayapur to Calcutta to Delhi and finally to Vrindavan. Since the Vrindavan temple and guest house was still mostly a construction site, the devotees had to stay at the nearby Fogel ashram, while Prabhupada again took up residence in his newly constructed rooms near the site of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. The devotees would see him regularly on morning walks and during the morning Bhagavatam class, and he would also come in the evening sometimes to speak under an outdoor pavilion at Fogel ashram. Noticing that not many devotees attended his first evening meeting in his room, Prabhupada inquired and learned that many of them were out visiting Vrindavan's famous old temples and other pilgrimage sites, while others were shopping in the bazaar, and still others were sleeping. Bring them all back, Prabhupada said, annoyed. Coming to pilgrimage means to come where the sadhus are. I'm here, so why is everyone going elsewhere? On hearing this, so many devotees came to Prabhupada's room that they could not all fit. Prabhupada began talking about tapasya, austerity. The tapasvis in Vrindavan go naked, he said, even in the cold. They are determined not to take birth again for material life. He described how the living entity before birth remains cramped within the womb, a condition much like being tied by the hands and feet and thrown in the ocean. Worms within the mother's body bite the skin of the embryo, and the living entity suffers. Because Maya deludes us into thinking we are happy, Prabhupada explained, we have to again enter the womb of a mother. And although in one lifetime we may be a wealthy human being, in the next life we may be a bug or a hog or a dog. So this life is for tapasya, Prabhupada said. But we cannot execute severe penances in this age. So our penance is to try to reform poor crazy persons. One should take voluntary pains for Krishna. Krishna comes to save the fallen souls. So if you help a little, he will be pleased. Krishna comes himself and he sends his devotee and he leaves books, and still we are mad for sense enjoyment. Our penance, therefore, is to try to reform the fallen souls. Prabhupada's preaching uplifted his disciples, whose duty was to preach to the citizens of many lands. They had come at Prabhupada's bidding to visit Mayapur and Vrindavan, but their real work was to save the fallen souls of their native countries. And Prabhupada's preaching filled them with determination. Later, one of the devotees told Prabhupada that dealing with the devotees was sometimes more difficult than dealing with the materialists, and he mentioned a well-known problem case, a devotee named Makhan Chor. That is your penance, Prabhupada said. Your penance is to work with Makhan Chor. We should take anxiety. For a sane man to work with a crazy man is not pleasurable, but the service to Krishna is pleasurable. Prabhupada described how he had left his peaceful life in Vrindavan to take on so much burden and anxiety for Krishna. Just as he had taken a risk by going to America in old age, so his disciples should accept whatever difficulties were required in preaching Krishna consciousness. The work is not pleasurable, Prabhupada said, but making so many devotees is pleasurable. Although the devotees had been visiting various temples of Vrindavan, eager to imbibe the Vrindavan spirit, the real nectar came when Prabhupada, sitting in his room, spoke about Vrindavan. Vrindavan is for Paramhamsas, he said. You cannot see Vrindavan with Vishaya or material spirit. The test is how much you have conquered over eating, sleeping, and mating. Don't think you can just come to Vrindavan and become a Goswami. One who comes to Vrindavan with the material spirit will take birth as a dog or a monkey in Vrindavan. That is his punishment. But the dogs here are also Vaishnavas. People come to Vrindavan to give up all material anxieties and family life. So one should not be afraid. He should never mind what is going to happen. There are many devotees in Vrindavan who are not disturbed by heat or cold. But another risk in Vrindavan is to meet those who talk of the gopis but are not free from smoking bidis. They are sahajiyas. We have to see who is a devotee by his personal behavior. If one is seeking money and bidis and women and talking of the gopis, then what is his position? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never talked of the gopis publicly. The real Vrindavan is not to eat prasadam and sleep, but to follow the advice of Vrindavan Chandra Krishna and broadcast his message. That is his message. That is Vrindavan. Vrindavan Dham is worshipable. Don't commit an offense here. Take it as Chintamani Dham. Krishna, Narottam Das Thakur says, to see Vrindavan is not possible with Vishaya. So we should take the shelter of Gauranitai, become cleansed of eating, sleeping, and mating. Then you will see Vrindavan. Don't commit offenses here. There is a special influence in Vrindavan. Prabhupada said that Vrindavan's spiritual quality was such that devotional service performed here had 100 times the effect of service performed elsewhere. But an offense in Vrindavan also had 100 times the effect. Ordinary persons, therefore, were advised to visit a holy place like Vrindavan for no more than 3 days. Otherwise, they would become slack and return to their sinful activities. Better to come, Prabhupada said, become purified and leave on the fourth day. And the worst offense to Vrindavan is to commit illicit sex here. So do not come here, not come and play hide and seek with Krishna. He sees with his eyes, the sun, and he is also in your heart. Krishna knows everything. Those who want to be devotees have to be sincere. They shouldn't play tricks because Krishna knows everything. Be sincere with Krishna and his representative. Preach the gospel of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Become a spiritual master. After his evening lecture, Prabhupada mentioned how some of the Sahajiyas had walked out during his lecture. They are so advanced, he said, that they want to hear only of the embracing and kissing of Radharani and Krishna. They take my talks as ordinary. Prabhupada explained that his process of lecturing was to speak on only one verse per lecture, but that speaking was the same as Krishna speaking. He said that his own Guru Maharaj had lectured for 3 months on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and for that he had gained great respect. Prabhupada learned one day that one of his disciples had left the company of the ISKCON devotees to live among the Babajis at Radhakund. Prabhupada became angry and sent for the boy to come immediately. When the boy arrived, Prabhupada went out to see him. Dressed in only a dhoti, Prabhupada spoke sternly to his disciple, saying that the monkeys of Vrindavan also live simply but are interested only in eating and sex. Don't become a monkey, Prabhupada said, trembling as he spoke. Why don't you come and live with me? The boy replied, the Babajis have given me some facility to chant. You come with me, Prabhupada explained. I will give you facility, but don't become a monkey. The boy surrendered before Prabhupada's compassionate concern. Prabhupada heard from his disciples living in Vrindavan that some of the local Goswamis had a complaint about him. They had read an article published in Back to Godhead and considered it insulting. The article written by Prabhupada's disciple Hayagriva contained a statement that Goswamis in Vrindavan who misbehaved would become hogs and monkeys in Vrindavan in their next life. Prabhupada replied that the statement was accurate. The article, he said, had not specifically referred to the present Goswamis, but to any Goswami who lived sinfully in Vrindavan. This was not merely an opinion, but was the authoritative conclusion of the original Goswamis of Vrindavan. Although Yamuna Dasi lived in Vrindavan with her husband Guru Das, Prabhupada rarely saw her. So one day he sent for her and inquired why she was not coming to hear him and serve him. Yamuna admitted that she was afraid because Prabhupada seemed to be in a chastising mood of late. She was referring to Prabhupada's insistence and pushing to get Vrindavan temple built. Prabhupada said that only by his pushing was the temple being built. But Yamuna again confessed her fear of Prabhupada's anger. You may be afraid of your spiritual master, Prabhupada said, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't come and see him. He then narrated the story of how Lord Balaram had once forced the river Yamuna to come before him. As he spoke, all the devotees present became aware that Prabhupada was not only telling the Leela of Lord Balaram's frightening the river Yamuna, but he was also speaking indirectly about his disciple Yamuna. Absorbed in the pastimes of Lord Balaram, Prabhupada described how the Lord, intoxicated from drinking honey, had threatened the river Yamuna, forcing her to come. But when the Yamuna did not come, Lord Balaram had cut into the earth with his plough, forcing her to flow to him. In this way, Prabhupada said, I will drag you to come and see me. Yamuna Dasi agreed to stop her foolish reluctance and come and cook for her spiritual master. Although the afternoons were warm in Vrindavan, the early mornings were chilly. Dressed in a sweater, a wool chadar, and a fuzzy wool cap that buttoned under his chin, Prabhupada led his disciples on a pre-dawn walk along Chatikara Road. With the ISKCON leaders and sannyasis staying close to catch his words, he walked and talked in Vrindavan. His walks were so long that most of the devotees became tired, and some joked that Prabhupada was going to walk all the way back to Delhi. When the sun rose, gradually the air would begin to warm. Some of the devotees had expected that in Vrindavan, Prabhupada would talk more about the places of Krishna's pastimes and about Krishna and the gopis, and that Prabhupada himself would want to see the places of Krishna's pastimes. But Prabhupada seemed far more concerned to hear of the preaching of his disciples or to discuss the construction of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Often, when devotees raised the topic of Vrindavan, Prabhupada would criticize the cheating of certain Vrindavan Babajis and the corruption within Vrindavan, or he would speak of the special vision required before one could properly see Vrindavan. He said Vrindavan was wherever a pure devotee lived, and he stressed that the devotee's main business was to go out of Vrindavan and preach. As they walked along the road, the main traffic was pedestrians, workers carrying milk on bicycles, or men riding on bullock carts. Only occasionally an automobile would speed by, its horn honking. Almost every person who approached would respectfully greet Prabhupada with Jai Radhe or Hare Krishna, or they would hold up their hands or bow their heads and say Namaste. One young man driving a bicycle rickshaw approached from the opposite direction, and just before Rishi Prabhupada stopped his rickshaw, got down, stepped out of his shoes, and prostrated himself on the road. Prabhupada smiled and said, "Very good boy." Prabhupada paused. "This is Vrindavan," he said. The simple habit of the ordinary people in Vrindavan to offer respect to a saintly person was to Prabhupada an expression of Vrindavan's essence. Vrindavan was one of the few remaining places in India where even a common man would chant the name of Radharani and Krishna as he passed by on the road. To fully understand this extraordinary phenomenon was to understand Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Okay, so let's pause here. Yes, so that is the mood of Brajavasis. How much effort it takes here. You see, this person, he's driving and he's stopping his rickshaw, getting down, stepping out of his shoes, then bowing down, offering his obeisances on the road in the dust. How much here when we have to just in front of our deities bow down. People come to the temple. That is one thing with Indians also these days. That one thing Prabhupada used to say those days. But that's where one very, very important thing when we go to any temple, especially in front of the Lord, we should bow down, because that is the ultimate perfection of our using our senses, as we say, like Amrish Maharaj, using our senses. So our head should bow down before the Lord and his pure devotees. So we see here how the Brajavasis are doing that. Yeah, it should not be, and our surrender should be, and our surrender is perfect like that. Then when we bow down, then we are surrendered. And like here we read today, Prabhupada was saying, don't become monkeys. Like our surrender should not be like monkeys. So there's a difference between monkeys and there's a difference between cats. Right? So if you see monkeys, their babies, what will they do? They will cling on to the mother monkey, right? And when the monkey jumps from one tree to another tree, right, the baby is actually tightly holding on to the mother, and it is really in the hands of the baby, really. So baby monkey is thinking that I can hold on to my mother, and when the mother is jumping from one tree to another tree, if it doesn't hold on very tightly, there are chances that it may fall down, right? Versus if you see the case of a cat and a kitten, a cat will hold its baby kitten in its mouth, right? The kitten is fully surrendered and it will just let its mother carry itself to wherever the mother wants to take it, right? So the kitten is completely, fearless and completely free of any anxiety because she knows that the mother will carry her wherever she needs to be taken to, right? But the same rat, when it comes in the mouth of a kitten, the cat, it will fear because that same mouth of cat can be death personified for the rat. But that same mouth of a cat is full shelter, protection for a kitten. So our surrender should be like a kitten, where we are fully surrendered to the Lord and to the Lord's pure devotees, that they will carry us back home, back to Godhead as they desire. Not like a monkey that we are holding on and on our own power and thinking that, oh, because of my sadhana or because of my endeavors or because of my service, I'm going to stay connected to my Guru or to Sri Krishna. So the surrender should not be like a monkey, Markat Vairagya. It should be like a cat or kitten. So a lot of things like that. I was also remembering yesterday we were talking, many of us here, Mataji and a lot of other devotees, we all were there at the Durga Puja yesterday. And something similar there also, right? So here in Vrindavan, like Prabhupada is giving examples, that Vrindavan also is infested with many so-called sahajiyas who consider themselves as paramhamsas, but actually they are not even conquered their own bodily demands, right? They're still in the process of eating, mating, sleeping, defending, and drinking and smoking bidis, right? And considering themselves as Goswamis. So that is not the right way. And we saw similar examples even in Bengal. So in Vrindavan, in Mayapur, in Bengal also, when devotees used to live 500 years ago during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, also there were many so-called Goswamis, who would be envious and jealous of these devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who were not born in Brahmana families. Um, so like that, of course, I'm not criticizing anything, but just again, Bengalis are so Bengal was considered to be the capital of India when the Britishers were here, and even before that, it was the spiritual capital of India during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But there are still these Bengalis who are eating meat, eating fish. Right? Yesterday, when we went to the Durga Puja, on their banner, they had a uh, advertisement about place where they can eat, where they can purchase fish and meat, and so. Um, so it is unfortunate that, but again, people are all indifferent. So that is why we say, Bharat Bhumite Hoila Manusha Janma Yaar, that we have been going through this cycle of life. It's a progression, ultimately, hopefully, with the mercy of the devotees, mercy of Srila Prabhupada, all those people. Yesterday, we are able to hear the bhajans and hear the kirtans of the Lord. Even I was thinking that Durga Devi, who was there standing on the altar along with her whole family, Ganesh ji was there, Shiv ji were there. Maybe they were waiting for ISKCON devotees to come and lead kirtan, lead the kirtan, because because nothing gives them more pleasure, right? If you worship Durga Devi, like we said, the principle in spiritual world is you don't glorify the person on the altar or glorify the deity on the altar. You glorify their devotees. So like when then Durga Devi was on the altar, when we glorify the Lord, who is actually her brother. Durga Devi is the sister of Krishna, right? She was born, and then when Vasudev Maharaj carried her back, and then she came in front of Kamsa and told her that your death is already born, Krishna is already born. Right? So she was actually the sister of Krishna. So when we pray in front of Durga Devi, when we sing Kirtan, that we did yesterday, when we performed, all our little kids performed nice dance, nice performances in front of the deity of Durga Devi and Shivji and Ganesha. They were all very happy and they were all very pleased, and they would have blessed all the devotees. So like that, this is a progression. Many of them who are there yesterday, I'm sure they would be blessed. They would get some sukriti, piety, just by hearing Hare Krishna that our devotees chanted there, our book distributors, even though there may not have been many books distributed, but still just by seeing those books, just the books being present there in that environment would have purified, their many of their sins. So hopefully they all get some piety from that. Okay. Anything else, anybody? Anything you would like to share?
Yeah, taking a part in Vrindavan as a monkey and dog is also very interesting in the story today.
Hmm. Yeah. But we should not commit any sins or any offenses. Then, but yeah, like Prabhupada says, even those are Vaishnavas. The trees in Vrindavan are pure Vaishnavas. So like that, any living entity in Vrindavan can only enter Vrindavan by the mercy of Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna. So it's very anybody who's there is there only by the mercy of the lordships. Yesterday, we were reading this story of Nriga. That reminds me one story since you mentioned this. There was one Mataji, I don't know if it was Prabhupada disciple or who, but I think ISKCON devotee. She went to Vrindavan once. This was a recent story, and then she was there in Vrindavan, and then she was going back. I think she was from Switzerland. So then she goes back to Switzerland, and while she's going in the flight, actually not, she lands in Switzerland, and then at the airport, when she opens her purse, she actually sees there's a lizard, like King Riga yesterday. He got the sin, or he got the bane of being born as a lizard, right? Like that. But so she sees this Mataji, she sees that there's a lizard in her purse, and she realizes, oh, there's a lizard that I got from Vrindavan. So this lizard is actually a Vrajavasi, right? So she had so much deep love and compassion. She takes the immediate next flight from the airport itself, and she goes back all the way to Vrindavan, and she leaves that lizard back, in the Vrajabhumi. So So that is how it is. Even a lizard in Vrindavan is a Rajavasi, and devotees have pure devotees like that. Mataji, how much love she had and how much compassion. That she went all the way back to Vrindavan after reaching Switzerland. She goes back to Vrindavan and drops that lizard back in its home. So like that. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nalin Prabhu. All right, anybody else would like to share anything? Sorry, were you saying anything else, Nalin Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, I said.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I will encourage all of you also to think, meditate whenever we read Srila Prabhupada's books. See, Krishna is always there. Like that other day, who was asking, Shilpa Mataji was asking, how can we see Krishna everywhere? So this is how we make an effort, make an attempt to see Krishna everywhere. Krishna is there with us. He's there in the core of our heart as Paramatma. He's there with us day in and day out in all our situations, all circumstances. We should make an endeavor to see the hand of Krishna in our lives, in our daily lives. How did Krishna show up today? So like that. So yesterday, even though we were at the Durga Puja, Krishna was there with us in his holy names, in his books, the books of Srila Prabhupada. So yeah, let's make an attempt, make an effort to see how Krishna shows up in our lives every day, and let's share with each other so we get even more deeper rasa and relish our eternal relationship with the Lord and with His pure devotees. Okay, so we'll pause here for today. Thank you so much for your kind association. Vanshakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, शीला प्रभुपाद लीलामृत की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल. Thank you, dear
Hare
devotees. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, dear
Happy
devotees.
Ekadasi. Yeah.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी.
Ekadasi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.